Hey, how you doing, folks? Hope you're doing well. I hope today the sun is shining wherever you are. And certainly if it didn't shine on the outside, I hope that it's shining on the inside. You know who it is, your favorite person, coming to you with an amazing interview of someone I call certainly a friend and someone I absolutely admire. So I'm certainly glad that he has the time for us. And for anyone that you know that has vision or would like to have vision or simply be inspired by someone who has vision, today would be a great opportunity, a great interview to listen in on as I get ready to introduce Afam to you all. Now, he is the founder of GEANCO, and what you may see or may be hearing right now is, think it in the description, maybe it's like law school, medical school, maybe. I think what I want to do is I want to found something. I want to create something that's bigger than myself and affect lives beyond mine, which is exactly what Afam has been able to do and continues to do in his work. Now, beyond that, I'm certainly going to share some photos so you guys get a feel and a grasp for who you all are about to have an opportunity to meet. Now, what's amazing, there are photos like this that are he said, I would like to introduce to you a friend of mine and soon to be a friend of yours, wherever you are. Clap your hands, stomp your feet for Mr. Afam Onyema. How you doing, man? How you doing?
Hey, Stan, how are you, my friend?
Fantastic, fantastic. How are you doing over there on the West Coast?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been a good day, good week and month, despite everything going on. Trying to end it on a positive note. This is a really busy time, really for all charities, all nonprofits. Year end is huge, so it's been a lot going on, but just really blessed by the response we're getting so far as we wrap up the year.
So now, before we hop into the charity, I know I was kidding on the square with how GEANCO came to be, but if you don't mind, like giving a little bit of background on where you started. We went to high school together. A lot of folks don't know this, but if you don't know, I know that he's coming defensive end. Right. That's where I had to run. I always wanted to go the other way. But so football was, let's say, the physical play, but you are an incredibly intelligent, kind person, right? So tell me about, education. Where did you see yourself going? Where did others see you going as it pertains to education and schooling?
Sure. So really, as with most people, my story begins with my parents, and in particular, my father. My father and my mother are native Nigerians, and my dad went to a British boarding school, and it's at that British boarding school that he connected with a British missionary doctor, one of the few female doctors in Nigeria. This is back in the 40s and 50s, and she saw something in him. She wanted to mentor him and develop him, and so as she was doing her medical work and seeing patients and helping his fellow students and people in the village, he went along and helped a lot with what she was doing. And he fell in love with medicine, but more importantly, sacrificial medicine, the idea of giving of yourself. This doctor could have been back in the UK, back in London, doing things that are far more lucrative. But she and her husband, who was the English teacher at my dad's boarding school, decided to come to Nigeria and to really do what they could to support the community there. And so he promised this doctor and his dad, my granddad, that no matter where he goes and what he does, he's going to come back to Nigeria and help save lives. So I met my mom in Nigeria. My mom was trained to be a nurse. My dad was trained to be a doctor. They met in Nigeria and they came over to Chicago And we grew up in the south suburbs, as you know, in Chicago. And my dad always had this plan, and my mom, that we're going to stay in the U.S. for 4, 5, 6 years, and then get back to Nigeria and help save lives. But I'm the second of 4 kids. And you mentioned education. They realize, gosh, there's no better place for opportunity for our kids to have excellent educations, premier educations that will lead them to do whatever they possibly can do. They can really fulfill their potential here in the US. And so we stayed. And, I just, by dint of hard work and just being blessed, was able to get into Harvard, and played football there. Was pre-med there for a while, and really just it was really there that when I was coming out of Harvard, that I thought about this work in a very unformed sense. By that I mean, most of my classmates at Harvard were interested in being financially successful, or politically powerful, or culturally relevant, and those are all really important. Nothing wrong with any of those. I have friends that are in Congress who are billionaires, who have won Oscars and what have you, and like, God bless them. But I was just thinking about, gosh, we have this amazing opportunity at this school to make an impact beyond ourselves in those ways. And that's when I started thinking more and more about helping my father, doing more in Nigeria. I ended up going to Stanford for law school, and I was really balancing my corporate law track with developing a foundation that could do the work that we wanted to do in Nigeria. Eventually had to decide I couldn't do both well. And if I did the GEANCO work, the work in Nigeria, obviously I couldn't do the corporate work. If I picked corporate over the GEANCO work, GEANCO would just die. We didn't have money to hire someone. It was just going to die. And it was really, I got up in the morning both inspired and terrified doing that GEANCO work. And I thought that's a pretty good place to be in life, to have that as your pursuit. So I turned down my corporate law offers, very, very generous offers, in 2007, and moved from Stanford to LA. And I've been running GEANCO ever since.
Wow, amazing. So what was, like you mentioned, that that terrifying feeling? Did you feel that in saying no? Let's say, to that opportunity, like, no, I'm not going to do this. What was that feeling, if you can remember back then, to say, no, I'm taking the road less traveled in this period?
It wasn't, and I wish I could say it was like this, light went on and angels singing and this one moment in time. But honestly, it was an evolution as I got more and more involved with the work. And I go to my property law class, and then I take my bike and I run over to the Stanford Medical School and try to learn about malaria and disease. And I would try to sneak over to the business school and learn what I could about how does one create an organization, how does one run a business, which is, a lot of ways what a charity is, and just tried to soak up all that Stanford had to offer. And it just became this natural inclination. Like, it just, over time, my first couple of years at law school, and then really the summer of my second year. So there are 3 years in law school. The summer between my second and third year of law school, well, I helped organize a medical mission to Nigeria. So I couldn't go because I was obviously still in school and working, but I organized a group of doctors from Chicago to go, or I helped organize, and they did hip and knee replacements. And just the idea of this team of doctors going, and then 23 people 2 weeks later have brand new hips, brand new knees, new lease on life. I think everyone listening, everyone watching, either knows someone who's had a joint replaced, or knows someone who either has a joint replaced or needs a joint replaced. And that the idea of the agony and disability to becoming healthy and whole and being able to go back to work or school was amazing to me. So, like, gosh, I can do that. Like, that can be my thing. I can actually get up in the morning and have that be my thing, instead of try to squeeze it in during the 1 hour of free time I'd have as a corporate lawyer per year. So, and again, it sounds all like tra la la, make this decision, but then, of course, we have to raise money for it. I have to pay for myself, let alone like raise money for the work. And I just, to this day, I owe so much to my Stanford and Harvard families, my classmates, who to this day donate and support. I've had one of my classmates leads one of our medical missions. Two of my classmates have been on the board, have come to Nigeria with me. A couple of my classmates have wealthy relatives and they seeded GEANCO. One of my professors at law school basically paid for me to live, like to literally feed myself and pay rent for a year as I was able to build GEANCO. So back then and to this day, I owe them so much, not only for getting us on a sound financial footing, but as you can see from some of the pictures, some of the celebrity connections that we've been able to make have come through some of those folks as well. So I started with that germ, and that's something, if you don't mind, I'd love to leave anyone who's listening with a bit of advice, is don't neglect your alumni community, whether it's your high school, your college, your grad school. Those people, we have that tie, even if you didn't go to the same school at the same time. I've just found that they're more willing to hear you out, more willing to listen to you, more willing to give you a chance because of that connection. And certainly your classmates who know you can do that. But those who, talk to that old head who graduated from your university, 20 years before you and is now killing it at whatever firm or whatever business, or someone who's doing exactly what you want to do. Don't be shy about reaching out to alums and saying, "Hey, what dorm were you in? Wasn't the food terrible in this? And remember that big game?" Like, it's amazing. We're trying to find ways to connect. I'm always trying to find ways to connect with someone. And if you begin there, it's amazing how that starts. And again, you have to prove yourself worthy. It's not like, "Oh yeah, we graduated from the same school 10 years apart. Here's $1 million to do whatever." But like that gets you in the door. That gets people listening to you. And then it's what really a lot of folks, all they need is just a chance, that open door, that listening ear, that, okay, I got 10 minutes. Let's do this. Especially now that people are more settled and aren't hopping on planes and dashing around the world as much.
Heck yeah. You said one thing, like to be ready, like to have something to offer, to be of substance, which I think is powerful too. But I always think of this quote called, named "Pride is I say pride is expensive." And
amen.
Can you speak a little bit? Thank you. Can you speak a little bit to like being open to that help, to that support, to to the support of the organization, beginning or continuing to thrive, and the folks being like, "Hey, I can do this," and you being like, allowing people to be there for you. Can you speak to that at all in that process?
Gosh, Dan, that is, if I could leave one thing for people to take with them is you said it perfectly. Like, pride is expensive. Humility opens doors you won't even know were there. And coming to people with humility and with a kindness is a superpower. And I tell you about, that's my power isn't my degrees or whatever. My power is being vulnerable. My power is walking into an Oscar winner's trailer, or a billionaire's office, or just someone I knew from college, and just sharing the story I just shared with you, and saying, I can't do this alone. I need your help. Whether that help is a donation, whether that help is an introduction. I want to save and transform lives in Nigeria. There are women who are dying needlessly in childbirth. There are girls who are being abused and neglected, who need to be educated. There are men and women who have ripped up hips and knees and need surgeries and care. And I want to do that. I want to give them that care and be for them, but I can't do it alone. And I want to do it with you. Not even I want to do it with you. I want you to be part of this GEANCO family. And that, more than anything, I can give you a dozen examples of conversations I've had with people who couldn't find Nigeria on a map, had never given before, but who said, "Well, I want to give to this because I believe in you. I believe in this." And it's that vulnerability. It's having that willingness to. And I think people sometimes forget. It's funny. I often get the question, which makes me laugh. People say, "Well, like, okay, so you raise money for Nigeria. Yeah. Well, how do you pay rent? How do you buy clothes? How do you?" I'm like, "Well, it's a salary of, we take a small portion of GEANCO's donations and take a smaller portion of that. And then I take that and I survive." And they go, "Oh my goodness, that's like," yeah, literally, I literally cannot eat tonight without the kindness of others. Like, the clothes I have on my back, the apartment that I'm living in, the car that I drive, completely are literally gifts literally gifts, not even metaphor. They're gifts from people. And so I carry that with me every single day. And I live in gratitude because people giving money isn't just here's money to some nameless, faceless organization. It's like, here's money so that you can thrive, so that you can do this work. I'm trusting you. And yeah, gosh, if we were all just a bit more humble, a bit more kind, a bit more willing to be vulnerable, it's revolutionary what it could do to this world.
Uh, man, it's interesting because it is a superpower to be kind, to be vulnerable. Did that come naturally? Is that a muscle or a skill that you've worked at, or is it something that now that you have it, that you continue to work on and practice, being that version of you?
Mm-hmm. I think we all have our natural gifts. I can't. I'm terrible at math. Don't give me a Excel spreadsheet. Don't give me, which one of the reasons I went to law school instead of business school. I'm like, oh, I can talk and argue all day. Like, you give me a spreadsheet or a budget, and business school, I'm in trouble. And I love people. I love engaging with people. I am not at all uncomfortable being vulnerable, and I think it's it's something my parents have both had. My parents are both very emotionally intelligent. They can read a person really well, and they do it in a way that puts people at ease. And I think one of the greatest gifts one can have in my world, in the fundraising world, is to put people at ease, because the minute you come in and you say the word foundation, like, oh my goodness, like your hackles go up, and then you hear the word Nigeria, and you're definitely like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And I just tell them a story, and I tell them a story I told you, and I think it's because everything I do is rooted in story, and it wasn't, oh well, I was working for UNICEF, and then GEANCO came along and doubled my pay package, and I could relocate, and if Doctors Without Borders comes with a better offer tomorrow, I'm like, peace, GEANCO. It's like, this is like my life. This is
Next deal.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I am not going anywhere. I tell our donors, again, whether they're famous and rich or not, like, listen, I'm doing this for life. So if you're on board, let's go. But I'm not going anywhere. You're not going to get a text from me saying, "Oh, so sorry, I got this great." I tell you, life's work and calling. So, but I do know that people have to work on being vulnerable, have to work on that lack of pride, because the sense of like, well, if I show weakness, then I've lost, or if I have to show them I'm tough and I can do this. And I think it's the opposite. I think people gravitate towards vulnerability, and again, not this cloying, false, fake. People can read that a mile away. I mean, it has to really come from a place. You have to be vulnerable, like not show vulnerability, but be vulnerable. And I think it's one of the few gifts that I have, and I try to use it every day, both in my GEANCO work, but also in my daily life.
Thank you for, again, being so transparent and vulnerable and saying those things. Now, you put in a lot of work. I have to ask, what are some of the coolest things you've been able to do as a result of your work? Because again, it's funny because some folks only see the cool stuff. They never see the hard work, or they don't get a chance to hear the story. They've heard the story and how much time you've been putting in, and you've been able to reap some fairly cool things as a result. So you mind sharing some of those things with us? What's some of the coolest things you've been able to experience?
Sure. I'll give you a two or three. And, it's interesting when you run a charity from LA, and I made a conscious effort to move down from the Bay Area to LA, because I figured if I can get to the right people here in LA, you can really expand your reach and your awareness and do some really fun things to raise money and awareness and excitement that you couldn't do in the Bay Area or elsewhere. And so I did that. And basically, I moved down in 2007, and it was, 6, 7, 8 years of just making connections, building relationships, just getting to know people, a coffee after a lunch, after drinks, after just kind of getting to know people, not forcing things, people realizing this guy's not going away. This guy isn't fly by night. He isn't Hollywood. Like, he really is trying to get to know me, and doors started opening up, and I got to some amazing people and amazing supporters. And then, you kind of flash forward and you're doing these things, and you're like, I cannot believe I'm doing this. And I'll just give you a couple. we're really fortunate in that we partner with the Oscars. And so for the past 5 years, one of our donors, and we've auctioned it online, we've done raffles for it. They can go with a friend to their official rehearsal the night before the big event. And so the Oscars are always on a Sunday night. So you go on Saturday night, and the great thing is that all the stars and musicians are coming to do their performances and kind of run through their lines. And so you get to be one of the few people in the theater kind of sitting there as, Brad Pitt's up there practicing, or Timberlake's like kind of going through his line. And it's like the most amazing thing. Like it's so surreal. You get to walk the red carpet before, like, they're literally putting it down as you're there, and you're taking pictures. And then we've been really fortunate in that both Jimmy Kimmel and Chris Rock have been supporters of GEANCO. And so the years they hosted, we went backstage and we met Jimmy the 2 years he hosted, and Chris the year he hosted. And they were really very, very great and gracious. And again, you're like, I can't believe that I'm at the Oscars. It's just an unbelievable experience. And another one that again just blows my mind is I've gotten to know some of the folks involved with the Marvel universe, and Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Doctor Strange and plays Sherlock, and the amazing series Sherlock, has become just an amazing supporter and a really kind friend. And so we were able to bring a donor for a day on set when they were shooting there in Atlanta. We were there at the Pinewood Studios in Atlanta. And it was really great because I said, listen, like, Ben will definitely be there. I can't promise what other Avengers will be there. And like, it'll just be like, and she's like, fine, I just want to kind of hang out with him and be on set. And it was a day when Robert Downey Jr., Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Drax, Dave Bautista, Palm, who plays Mantis, they were all shooting their scenes. And so they were all on set. And Robert Downey Jr. had this private lunch for all of them. And Benedict's like, well, let me ask him if you can join. And he said, oh yeah, sure, of course. And so it's this donor sitting next to Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. And, Downey Jr. is like ladling quinoa on my plate and asking me about life. And, Chris Pratt's talking about how he went bear hunting and almost got killed by a bear. And it was just like, you're like, I cannot believe. It's funny because like, Tom Holland's assistant and I were kind of off to the side, letting the donor and them have their lunch. And we're like, this is surreal. And I'm like, you too? It's like, yeah, man, this is crazy. I can't believe we're here. So and again, like the whole point of that is obviously it's exciting, and I'm not jaded enough to think, oh, it's just a day at the Avengers set. Like, but it's amazing. But in the end, we raise funds and are able to do more. There are girls who have scholarships because of those experiences. There are patients who have hips and knees. There are women who have delivered safely because we're able to take in more people. And so those are definitely two really, really, really crazy ones. And of course, the event you were at last year with Charlize was really special as well. She is just an amazing human being, and so human and so generous, and the people who run her foundation are fantastic. And so I found in my work here in LA, people who are willing to give me a chance and are willing to work with us are just so kind and generous and human. If they were jerks, I wouldn't even get within 10 miles of them. Like and I'm sure they exist. There are a lot of, obviously you see them on TMZ and what have you, but the actors that you work with, the producers, the directors, they genuinely care. They genuinely want to step outside themselves, and they realize that when they're on set and they're dressed as a wizard or they're dressed as a robot, that's not reality. That's not real life. Real life is helping women and children, and so for me, it's just continuing to build great relationships, whether the person's famous or not, and then finding ways, how can we work together. And then not only like, obviously, like, people, like, you want people to write checks and all that, but then, like, for instance, okay, well, I could give you money, or I could allow you to come on set and raise even more money, or at the Oscars, we're never going to give us money, but they could give us access. And so let's just kind of find creative ways to how do we make this work so that you're comfortable, I'm comfortable, the donor is comfortable, or the experience, or whatever we have. And so a lot of my job is trying to think through ways to have people feel comfortable. whether it's an Avengers set, whether it's the Oscars. We did the Rise of Skywalker premiere last year, and the donors got to meet Daisy Ridley. That was a fantastic experience. So just really blessed to have those type of experiences and to get to know real kind people who just happen to have jobs that society deems, like special, and they get to be famous. And a lot of it's not. And believe me, I've had several conversations about how that's not all it's cracked up to be. So, but we're really fortunate, and hopefully we can continue to build our network of people so that we can do even more in Nigeria.
And thank you. And really quick, as we get ready to close out, let's say there's someone out there, they want to start their own nonprofit. What would be some advice you would give them? And you can be as transparent, good, bad, or ugly.
Sure.
Like, what would be some advice you would give them if they're getting started or they have some momentum? What advice would you give them?
Sure. Well, I don't want to say don't, but I would say, why? There's the famous question, start with why. What's your why? And I've had dozens and dozens of conversations with mostly younger folks, but also some older folks who say, I want to start a charity. My uncle has prostate cancer. I want to start the John Smith Prostate Cancer Society or Foundation. I'll say, well, what's your goal? Is your goal to honor your uncle? Because if it is, you could do Facebook fundraisers and all that and give it to the National Prostate Cancer Society or give it to the American Cancer Society. It's you have to make sure your goal isn't, I don't want to say selfish, but you want to make sure that it's not, that it's sustainable, that that you are both physically and mentally and spiritually ready to commit yourself to it in a deep, fundamental way. I'm not saying you have to necessarily work full time on it, though it's very hard to move things forward if you don't have that full time experience. I hopped on a plane to fly to Atlanta before this thing with Avengers just to meet with Benedict on set, and to get to know him. I could do that because I didn't have to worry about who's covering me in LA and how do I get my hours and can I get permission. So I would ask people, is there a gap? Is there a hole in the universe that only you can fill in this way? Because there are 1.5 million foundations, and 80% of them, forgive me if I get the exact percentage wrong, but the vast majority make less than, I want to say, $100,000 a year. Even less than that, might be 50. People think these foundations are massive and charities are massive, but a lot of them, people start them and then they just life happens, and it's so hard to fundraise. It is so hard to fundraise. It takes time. It takes vulnerability. People are like, oh, I hate asking for money, but I want to start something. Well, then it's going to be very difficult unless you're rich or you know someone who's going to fund this. It's going to be very difficult to do it. So, what's your why? Are you willing? 13 years. I'm 13 years into GEANCO, and I'm more excited now about it than I was the day one. I get up what can we do? What can I do to help more girls, to reach more people? How do I get to X millionaire or donor? How do I, does anyone know Brad Pitt? How do we get to him? I just I'm trying to think through ways and build it. And how do I get better board members? And so I would say start with your why. Is there another organization that's doing similar work that you can attach onto as a donor? I mentioned board members. Could you be a board member for an organization? Could you start an advisory board or committee for another organization? I think most new nonprofits don't need to exist, and sadly, through this pandemic, most are no longer exist, which is very tragic. But I have someone just pause and say, "Is this about me? Is this about me wanting to be a leader and have something on my resume or what have you?" I just saw we had a huge Nigeria doesn't have a lot of high quality nonprofits that have a strong base in the U.S. but are also founded by Nigerians doing work in Nigeria. And so we were fitting. There was a hole in that universe that we filled, and we're able to tell our donors here in the U.S., listen, we get audited. We have our financials available online. I was born and raised here. I understand standards, and we're very careful about our accounting. But we can go to Nigeria and say, my dad, my mom, my family's here. My cousin is here. My cousin runs it here. we're Nigerian, we know the customs, like you're not coming in as Americans dumping something on you. In fact, most of our programs we fund already ongoing projects. Like we help people empower, like we have schools that we support and give, computers to, and books and sports facilities. And so we find good Nigerians doing good work and empower them. So yeah, so it's a very convoluted way of saying, take that pause and have a conversation with yourself and with someone else in that world. If you're looking to get into education, into healthcare, into international, and just find out what's out there. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, that person who wants to start something will find an existing organization or an existing mission that they can get in with, they can join in some way and support without having to go through the pain and struggle of starting their own thing.
Thank you so very much for sharing. That's huge. My sister started a nonprofit a couple years ago. It could be your kid, to help stomp out bullying. So again, though, that piece of information is really important as you look to grow and develop. And even as you talk about, again, the vulnerability piece and being able to, and maybe that's just a lesson outside of certainly, having a foundation, is being willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need this, or can you help me, or I'm not okay. I mean, all of the above seem to be ways to bear good fruit and get the right people around you. Because I love, you mentioned earlier, it's like, you don't want just anybody's money. All money ain't good money, right?
Amen to that. Amen to that. Yeah, especially in our world dealing with Africa and Nigeria, you have to be very careful about who you bring on your team and into your family.
Heck yeah. And that being said, how can folks be a part of the GEANCO family? How can they learn more about GEANCO, and how can they donate to GEANCO and be a part of the vision?
Sure. Well, I think you can go on our website, which is GEANCO.org. So it's GEANCO.org. And we have all of our programs and videos and articles. You can get a full sense of what we do. We have some special COVID-related programs that have their own section. And we're on all social media. We're at GEANCO FDN. Again, GEANCO FDN on Instagram and Twitter. You can find us on Facebook by just putting in GEANCO. And my contact information is all over all those channels, social media, and our website. So people can reach out to me. My email is aonyema@GEANCO.org. So people can hit me up, and we'll love to have people support. It's kind of, this is, I guess I mentioned at the beginning, this is our year-end push. And so we're trying to raise enough money to go into 2021 on a strong, positive note, hopefully a more hopeful note for everybody. We, as challenging as this year was, we were just so honored and blessed by people who came along and supported us this year. Again, you always want to do more. You want to reach more people and help more people. So people deem this cause worthy of support. Be honored to have their support. You can donate on our website. You can donate through Facebook, but I hope people would check us out, learn more about us, and always reach out to me if they have any questions. I think I still can't hear you, my friend.
Rookie mistake. Thanks for giving me some grace. And for those of y'all watching or listening live, you're like, hey, what's he talking about? My son who's getting ready for bed, little Stanley, you just never know where he's gonna have a cameo.
Of course. Yeah, you gotta have your finger hovering over that button. So I definitely understand.
So thank you for that. Appreciate you so very much, Afam, for being here, for being so transparent and sharing the kind light that you are. So if you're watching or listening, and wherever that might be, make sure you pick up some of what Afam put down, and not just that you check out GEANCO.org. I'm going to close them out in a moment, Afam. I'll see you in a moment as well. Thank you so very much for being here. Wait, I'll bring it back. Sorry, I feel like I cut you off. One more time. What was that, Afam?
Thank you for having me. And thank you for what you do to inspire people every day. It's amazing what you do, what you give to people in terms of your wisdom, your insight, but your energy. And more than at any other time, we need all of those. So thank you for being you. And it's been good to know you all these, I want to say, like years, because I'm getting old, but it's been a minute. And looking forward to many more decades of friendship and supporting each other. So however I can support you and what you do and how you reach people, I'm honored to do it. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, man. And I'm glad that they say that, we are a product of the people we hang around, and knowing that I'm able to hang around with you gives me, helps me rest easy at night. So thank you, Afam, for being you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Yo, thank you all so very much for being here. Make sure you check out GEANCO.org to learn a little bit more. Make sure you donate as well. It's important that right now, more than ever, that we create what we want to see. Right? We're in this weird vortex space called the Rona, pandemic, quarantining, you name it, all of the above. But what an amazing opportunity we have now to begin to literally create what we want to see. Like there's this thing called social distancing. I don't necessarily believe in that. What I do understand is happening is physical distancing, where we can't be next to the people we want to be next to. But what we can do is create the kind of environments and societies and communities that we say we want to have by creating we want to see. Obviously, we all know the quote of Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see. And I just always like to add, but it takes work. And it absolutely does, to be better versions of ourselves every day. But in the meantime, between time, remember 24/7, 365 and 14 days a year that you're good, you're great, you're worth it. My name is Stan Pierce II. You're already here first. And don't worry about being perfect. Just try to make a little bit of progress, because effort on fire beats knowledge on ice. Have a good one. Bye now.